I never doubted that it would end poorly. I thought I was at the zoo, though, watching some wild behavior from behind a barricade. As it happened, I was standing in the middle of the jungle. In 2007, the worst economic disaster since the Great Depression roared to life. The collapse of the U.S. housing market wiped out some $11 trillion in household wealth and wreaked havoc on Wall Street. It sank household name financial institutions Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, and Merrill Lynch. The mortgage industry became a ward of the state, and an unprecedented taxpayer bailout was needed to stop the nation's banks from bleeding out. Almost 8 million people would lose homes to foreclosure. At its depths, more than 12 million Americans were underwater, meaning their homes were worth less than the balances remaining on their mortgages. Some estimates put the number north of 15 million. The collapse pounded Alabama's Gulf Coast, where an anything-goes building boom gave way to an economic malaise prolonged by hurricanes, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, and the opioid epidemic. In Audubon Place, my subdivision of starter homes, close to a third of the 109 houses were foreclosed, one of them twice. Among underwater homeowners, I was fortunate. The house was modest, and so was the mortgage. I was in the early stages of my career, with greater earnings potential ahead. And I was single again, not yet 30, and had no children to support. Millions of homeowners moored to underwater properties had it worse, suffering in ways more subtle than those who lost houses. Many of those homeowners couldn't relocate for better jobs, move growing families into bigger houses, or enroll their children in better schools, or at least do so without draining savings. They couldn't tap home equity to pay for their children's college tuition or cover emergency health expenses. They probably couldn't refinance their homes to take advantage of interest rates that were kept historically low in response to the collapse. People my age and a few years older were hit especially hard. We started off strong when it came to homeownership. By our 10th high school reunion, people born in the 1970s, of which I was at the tail end, owned homes at a rate of 42%, according to a demographics study by John Burns Real Estate Consulting. We were comfortably ahead of our predecessors at the same age. When their 10-year reunions rolled around, people born in the 1950s and 1960s owned homes at rates of 37 and 35% respectively. But by our 20th class reunions, once the dust had settled from the housing collapse, we had fallen way behind. Our homeownership rate at age 38 was 52%, compared with 61% for Americans born in the 1950s and 63% among those born in the 1960s. I'm right on trend. A homeowner at 28, a renter, without qualm, at 38. John Burns, whose eponymous consultancy advises home builders, Wall Street investors, and Fortune 500 companies on matters demographic and housing related, calls our cohort neither Gen X nor Millennial. We are the foreclosure generation. Regardless of whether we actually had our homes repossessed, the crisis and the forces that delivered it have shaped our approach and strained our access to homeownership. The dislocation has been a drag on builders, brokers, and even tree farmers, not to mention the aging baby boomers who are counting on us to come along and buy them out of their big suburban houses. Yet for some plucky entrepreneurs and deep-pocketed investors, the housing crash presented a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to stake a claim to the world's largest asset class, U.S. single-family homes. Some of the newer clients that Burns counsels are companies that own and manage tens of thousands of tidy suburban rental homes. Such businesses didn't exist a decade ago. Their conception required two tectonic forces: the foreclosure crisis, which gave them the chance to gain critical mass on the cheap, and a leap in cloud computing and mobile technology that enabled them to orchestrate one of history's great land grabs and efficiently manage the far-flung properties thereafter. Today, these firms, launched at the depths of the crash by many of the world's largest property investors, own something like 300,000 homes and counting. Some rental executives say single companies will be capable of managing pools that are multiples of that.